Welcome back to the beautiful Andy Petrillo. But first, we gotta say welcome into OneNation, sponsored, presented by tonybet. And this is the first day of school.
Can you believe it?
This, for me, the Monday night, usually on Labor Day, usually had a game, started at 9, well, in high school, and then went to bed late. I dreaded the next day. I still have PTSD of fresh books, like the smell of fresh books. I wasn't the guy that liked school, but how are you?
I loved school.
But did you love school, like new pencil cases and fresh, like?
Everything was fresh, color-coded stuff, you name it. And then 3 days in, it was all destroyed. Like I was just.
You use your journal as well? Were you that person?
No. Oh,
like my journal had your.
When you talk about high school, when you start to get that journal
not your
they
journal
give
at
you?
home, yes, the journal they gave you.
Yes.
You used it?
Well, yeah, I tried, but then it just really turned into my girlfriends writing notes to me and all that kind of stuff. But like 100%, but then my pencil case would get scribbled on, my binder would get, all kinds of pen markings on it. But I have a story of my first ever.
Talk to me.
My first ever first day of school.
Kindergarten? Grade 1?
Kindergarten, grand entrance. I'll make it quick because it is a bit of a story, but the bottom line is, got on the school bus, went to the school. This little boy on the bus, Rocky, don't think I forgot your name.
Oh, wow.
Was being a little brat, and he's like, this is not your school. You have to wait till the next stop. Well, what does little Andy know? I don't know.
You got off the bus?
So I sat on the bus because I thought the next school was mine. So I noticed we pulled into a parking lot in a mall, and I said to the bus driver, excuse me, where's my bus?
Sorry, you gotta do the kid voice.
Excuse me. Where's my school? And she screamed because she didn't know I was at the back of the bus. And she's like, you were supposed to get off with all the other kids. And she wasn't very nice. She left me on the bus. She goes, too bad. It's my break time. Can you believe it? This was the 80s.
What?
This was the 80s.
What kind of story is this?
So she left me on the bus, cried myself to sleep. In the meantime, my grandmother went to go check on me, my little nonna.
Nonna.
Because she's like, let's see how Andy's doing on her first day of school. Doesn't find me in the schoolyard. Needless to say, the cops get called.
Everyone is wild.
It's a search party for little Andy.
For Andy Petrillo.
And then again, this is before the day and age of cell phones, all this kind of stuff, but they managed to get a hold of the bus driver, how I couldn't tell you. She runs in saying, you got me in trouble. I remember all this. Like I'm 5 years old, I remember all of it.
What kind of?
So she drives me back to the school, the police officer, making it more dramatic, carries me in to my grandmother, who's they almost thought they would have to sedate her because she was threatening to kill everybody. But they found me, it was all good. Turns out, bussy driver had a little issue with the drinky drink.
No way. Come on.
This was the 80s, man.
This is your first day in school.
So my grandmother, after that, was like, lady, you are not going to be working here ever again. She did. She got her fired.
So how did you get to school, after that?
It was a new bus driver. It was a new bus driver. And then Andy began her educational journey after getting the cops involved.
Look at this. Search party out for Petrillo. Nonna to the rescue.
Nonna to the rescue.
This is a spicy story.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, man.
I might use it and just take. Well, if I borrow it, I'm gonna have to change a lot. So I'll just say that my friend Andy. This is a crazy first day of school.
And
story.
it's so crazy that I know a friend of mine whose dad retired, but now drives school buses for fun. He's the one who told me they cannot get off the bus now unless they walk to the back of it. They have to hit a button because it forces them to make sure no child was left on the bus. And I'm like, dude, I could have used that back in 1985 because I was left on the bus. So yeah, there you go. There's my first day of school story. That will not happen to you kiddies. Parents, don't worry. Your kids are going to be just fine. There are so many other security precautions that are put into place now that did not exist back then. Everyone's going to have a wonderful first day.
I didn't even know where to begin. I think you need to take the.
Let's just get into soccer. How about we talk a little soccer? Why don't we, huh?
This is so great.
Yeah, you're so rattled.
You said when you say stories, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be good. This is epic.
Dude, I'll give you more details afterwards. But basically, the cops were called. Their search party was out. They were there was apparently some suspicious car, so they had to track down this man. The dude's like, no, I just dropped my kid off. It was it could have been one of those cold case, murder mystery, you name it shows. Whew. But it turned out the driver just wanted to go to the local pub and kind of left me in there until she got a phone call and got in trouble.
Oof.
Yeah, man.
The beautiful, talented Oliver Platt, the producer of this beautiful show, has us playing a game.
Yeah, we're playing a game.
And he says, how are you feeling? But how do you like to call
As
it?
I prefer to go, how you doing?
How you feeling? Of course, a big Friends fan and Andy Petrillo.
Yes.
Talk to me. Ask me the first one.
All right, so here we go. We're going to go through a number of the Canadian clubs, and we're basically going to say how they're feeling, right? Should they be feeling good? Should they not be feeling good? And let's start with we're going to go with players here in particular. So let's begin with Noah Jensen, right? 2 long-range goals for Forge, looking pretty good. Forge, as we know, topping the CPL table by 2 points. But, I mean, given where they were and how the season started, I mean, this is still a team to be reckoned with. And kind of seems like he's taken the position of Kyle Becker, who appears to be dealing with something. He's, not looked the greatest the last few games, didn't travel one of the games, subbed out of games, and we know Kyle Becker to go from start to finish, and things have just changed over the last little while.
Yeah.
So if you're Noah Jensen, how you feeling?
Feeling good. I think also, too, with someone like his comrade and Crazy Poku having a great 2 months, 3 months, and then getting sold as well, you know that there are eyes on this Forge team. A player like that, too, I remember when he started the 2022 final against Atletico Ottawa because Kyle Becker was suspended. And everyone's like, oh, that's a real loss, losing him. And even speaking to Kyle Becker after that, I said, Noah Jensen is more than competent, can play that role and do it well. I like that he subs into games and sometimes starts, and he wore the captain armband on Friday. But just took it with so much grace and humility, I should be here. Sometimes you have something to prove and you overdo it. But he's like, hey, let me take that sweet first touch, bangs in the first one, strikes that sweetly. I'm hitting that. That's going into whatever lake or rivers in Hamilton. I don't know what's going on. That's gone. Steel Town out of the stadium. But he just hits that with so much confidence. Same with the second one. It's like this one needed no prep touch, strikes it. He's a gem for me, and I think he would start probably week in and week out for any other CPL club in this beautiful league. But yeah, I think you have to feel good if you're him because you know that you're needed. But I guess with Forge, there's just so many gems on that team where there are some players that you have to beat out, and it's very difficult to beat out. But right now, going into the playoffs in 2-3 months' time, you got to be feeling good.
Well, and you have to be ready for your opportunity because, to your point, sometimes, someone's ahead of you on the depth chart, someone is playing well, and you hate to say it, and I say this, I've been saying it for years, every, time this happens in sport, but this is literally sport, when a player gets injured, that opens a door for another player. Of course, as a teammate, you never want to see that happen. I would hope you're not going to bed at night wishing for that to happen. But in the world of sports, that is a reality. Yeah. So when an injury happens or, something is just, niggling another player and they're forced to limit their minutes or sit out, whatever it is, and you step up, you cannot feel bad. You cannot feel bad at all. You have to take advantage of that opportunity. You have to make it difficult for the coach.
Very true.
And that's exactly what he seems to be doing.
The next one, Joey Saputo. CF Montreal. You're actually the first person I thought of because when it comes to MLS clubs...
Why, because it's an Italian last name?
No, I was just thinking more in terms of the line of when it comes to the 3 MLS Canadian clubs.
Oh, yes.
I'm not aging you. I'm not aging you. I want to repeat, I am not aging you. You have covered this beautiful game in this country longer than I have. See what I did there? Hey, first day of school. I'm there.
Smart. I already gave away the year of my first day of school. Everybody knows how old
But to grow up in the 80s, what a time. Yeah. Anyways, with your music. We say that. How do you feel about Joey Saputo and CF Montreal and the fact that the mega 2 losses that they just had?
And malade. It's not good. They're not.
No.
So malade. Très malade.
Whoa.
Why? You cannot be happy with the way things are going. You look at some of these stats here, right? So they come back from Leeds Cup. There's a 5-0 loss. There's a 4-1 loss.
Jeez.
It's not just losses. You're getting blown out of the water
Keeper
here.
Got chipped by 65 yards. Yeah.
Not good. Not good at all, right? You're now 12th in the Eastern Conference. Matthew Choinière, the drama that happened with him, he wanted out, rightfully so. He leaves, so he's not with the team anymore. And dare I go back even more, right? The amount of players that they've lost along the way, and Ishmael Kone and Alistair Johnson. And sometimes you can't hold that over them. If the players are good and they need to move on, you move them on. You do what's right for the player. But then you got to fill that gap.
It's true.
You don't just let that hole stay there.
They never really did, though, right?
No,
Charles?
And that's the problem, right? And then, of course, you have ex-employees coming on out and talking about not wanting to spend money and everything going on behind the scenes, and there's a change in coach again, and that doesn't seem to be getting the job done. So I think at some point, you've got to travel up the tree here and realize who's creating this trickle down effect.
Yeah.
And obviously it's going to come from ownership. I mean, not even to mention Olivier Renard having left a few months back as well, their sporting director. So everything is très malade for CF Montreal.
You said that really well.
I spoke the Française when I went to school.
The Française. This is still gonna go back to your kindergarten story and the fact that you end up going to French class later on. Like, it might not have happened. You could have still been in the mall. You would have been
I would have been locked in that. I would have been the girl in the bus, locked away forever.
Oh man, Halifax Wanderers yesterday.
Oh, do you not want to make a comment, or are you just agreeing with me on Montreal?
I agree with you. There's nothing
Okay.
more I really need to add. That's that pressing about CF Montreal. They just never added to their squad, and then now just want to go young. Is that really the recipe? We're really trying to go to playoffs and compete? Probably not. They're probably not going to make playoffs this year. So I'm even just moving on, truthfully.
And you know what? And I say this knowing absolutely nothing about conversations that are happening behind the scenes, but I do wonder at what point when, it's very clear a team is struggling to spend money, is struggling to do things, or just maybe not wanting to make a team better. Like, at what point does the league or even just the commissioner have a little bit of a conversation?
Yeah.
Right? Because we know that MLS doesn't just want to expand, but there's been talk of relocation and everything. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like I know where you're going.
So I'm just wondering, if you're the commissioner, if you're Don Garber, if you're some of the other owners, like, are you turning around saying we need everybody to pull their weight here and lift this league up? And if you feel like somebody's not doing that, do conversations start to happen behind the scenes?
I mean, in 2024, I think I've preached it enough, and I think people that are watching the CPL know it's a fact that the CPL need to have a market in Quebec. I'll just leave that there.
And basta.
The Halifax Wanderers.
Okay, yeah. Oh.
They won yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Labor Day Classic. Yeah. Don't get me started. I already grieved about the 3 years ago and picking up 2 penalties and no yellow cards. Whatever. Anyways, it's not about me right now. It's about the fact that they beat York United. Okay? 2-1. They played really well.
Yeah.
Thought Rampersad was great. But there's a man on that squad. This is a stat. 7 goals he scored from the penalty spot. 8 attempts. And he has 8 goals for a season. He scored 1 header in Vancouver, or against Vancouver. But he's had 2 own goals in the last 3 matches. And I'm not talking about, like, own goal where, like, you're on the line and you're trying to defend and, like, hits your shoulder and, like, goes in. Like, the own goals that he scored were goals. Like, 1 backwards header against Valor, top court. Chills. I was like, what a finish. I said in the studio. And, like, bless him. And obviously it doesn't mean, but I said, that's a finish. Then the one yesterday as well. Like, it is difficult to do what he did. Like, his first post, hit his leg, goes top corner, the opposite post. I don't know how it went in, but you're in a situation where you're like, as a defender and you're getting near your box, yeah, it's looking rough. Should he be feeling good? The fact that he has 8 goals and has contributed a third of Halifax Wanderers' goals for them, but he's had 2 own goals in the past 3 matches.
So you're talking Dan Nimick, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Nimick. And if you have a nose for goal, sometimes you just have a nose for goal.
You just score.
Sometimes you just don't know
Goals
what goal
go
it is.
in.
It's okay. Speaking of first day school, that's going to be the theme throughout.
Yes.
If you ever remember, for me, the first sport that you tried out for was basketball.
Nice.
Basketball was always the first to start. And I just remember we had this one girl who, bless, would always get turned around. And then she would go the
Oh, she's there dunking on her own net?
I was like, what
nah, you gotta tackle her.
doing?
Take
Yes.
the technical.
Anyways, it was just hilarious. We're like, wrong way.
Nah.
Anyways, so maybe sometimes he gets a little turned around out there. But if I'm Dan Nimick, how am I feeling?
You feeling good?
You know what? It doesn't matter. I would say I'm feeling good because he's in this is crazy. He's a defender who's in the Golden Boot race, as you mentioned, with his 8 goals. Right now, it's Brian Wright and Ruben Del Campo who lead the CPL with 9.
Yeah.
He's 1 goal behind them. Defenders never won the Golden Boot in the CPL. And you know what? It doesn't matter 7 from the spot. Hey, those are crucial.
Yeah,
and you never
ones.
know, especially in the playoffs, when maybe a penalty shootout needs to decide something.
Yeah.
He can step up.
Or just a big moment in a game, right? He strikes them with conviction. I think he should be feeling good personally, but obviously soccer is it's not tennis. It's not a 1v1 sport. You're still in last place. They're 6 points away from a playoff spot.
I know.
So hopefully they can turn around. I expect a spicy finish in the CPL, like a last day victory.
Yeah, this is tough. So they move within 6 points of a playoff spot. That is a little tough. I mean, the start to the season for Halifax has been really tough. And a player will, and I do believe players when they say this. 100% I do believe them. If they're having a good year, but the team is not, that doesn't sit well.
No.
It doesn't sit well at all because you're like, well, what's the point of my individual success if it didn't translate into, trophies elsewhere.
Yes.
Right, with the team and stuff. So maybe he's meds.
Meds?
Like meds. He's in the middle, right? He's half and half. Like
That's Italian?
I'm feeling good.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm kind of not. So like I'm coming out of not feeling.
Comme ci, comme ça?
Comme ci, comme ça.
Ah, ça va. Bien. Okay.
We need to stop because there are people who actually speak French who are like, you're just butchering it.
But we're trying.
We try.
It's the first day.
Yes.
First day of school.
It is, yes.
Next person.
John Herdman.
Oh, talk to me.
John Herdman. So they just recently, obviously, secured their spot in the Can Champ final, beating Forge. However, they lose 3-1 to DC United. 2 quick goals by DC United near the end of that. No Federico Bernardeschi in that game. No Jonathan Osorio either. And Herdman once again kind of suggesting maybe the team gets a little too comfortable over the summer. We know that he hasn't been happy with the lack of signing that's been going on in the summer transfer window. They just made the one signing, Henry Wingo. We know they need somebody to score. That's not happening. And they're 8th in the Eastern Conference. So they're in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, they would like to go right, and they don't want to do that playoff game.
For sure.
Or play-in game or whatever, it's escaping me what it's called right now. But you know what I'm talking about. They just want to go straight into the playoffs. They're trying to avoid that, but they have 6 games remaining. How you feeling if you're John Herdman?
Personally, with all that's going on, I'm not feeling the greatest. With your squad, I'm feeling a bit uneasy if you're looking at league play. But I think also, too, for him, I know he's focusing on it, and I understand it from Toronto FC's perspective, is that you're in a final. And through a season where it might be difficult and lots going on, if you could win something, say 2024, this Canadian Championship winner next to your name, and you're the one leading the charge, there's a silver lining there. I think there's so much going on with this team. I think even, too, when you look at how they only brought in Henry Wingo, and I remember vividly, and you know me, I'm a body language guy, how people react and what happens. And when Prince Owusu missed the thigh that went over the bar with the backspin from a yard, I don't know how he missed, but it does happen. The camera goes to him, and he's just looking up top to someone. He wasn't looking up to the Lord. He was looking to someone. And it's no secret and no surprise that Toronto FC should have, or they need, I should say, a number 9 that can actually score goals and put the ball away. Where someone like John Herdman, there are other coaches that maybe hide their emotions and say, like, behind closed doors what they might need, but he's doing that on the sideline. He's turning and expressing his frustration with certain people that are in charge. So with TFC, I'm just looking at them, I'm like, yeah, maybe that silver lining is winning the Canadian Championship, but are they making playoffs? Do they have a good enough squad to go and do that? I just don't know.
I don't like the performative part of it, though. And I get it, right? Like, I think sometimes, and I don't know, you'd have to ask John why he does this. Maybe he does it because that's just who he is. Maybe he's doing it because he's trying to send a message to his players that I care about you. So when things aren't working, I'm going to, let management know about it. I don't like any of that because that gets old.
I don't know if that works, though.
No, and that's what I mean. It's a shtick. It's a shtick, and it gets old in a hurry. If anything, it's like, again, okay, I'm going to use the analogy of, like, first day of school, and it's like your mom dropping you off and wanting to, like, give you kisses and saying I love you, and you're in front of your friend. You're like, don't do that anymore, Mom.
Don't kiss me.
I got my friends. They're watching. And I think at some point the players are like, stop doing that. The fans are here and they're watching. Like, keep up. There are certain things that need to be kept behind closed doors.
Agreed.
And I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to be frustrated. But it's like everyone knows.
Yeah.
Like, your fans aren't stupid. Everyone knows. And yes, you're frustrated, but there's certain conversations, certain body language, certain looks. Maybe that was to the GM, like maybe it was to Jason Hernandez. I don't know. But a lot of that stuff needs to still be behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And because when you start to bring it all out, when you start to just lay out your dirty laundry to everybody, first of all, I just don't think people care.
True.
And they just say, that's nice, get us results. We still just don't care.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I do wonder, like, Canadian Championship, they go out there, take on Vancouver, if they win it, it's always great. You never want to say trophies don't matter, but we all know what Herdman wants. Like, it's his first year as a pro coach, first year MLS. He wants those playoffs, and he wants the playoffs to matter.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like, we just made it by the skin of our teeth, and then you get destroyed.
You're lucky to be here. He doesn't want that. Yeah.
You don't want, exactly. You don't want your lucky to be here. And I think he just needs to kind of stop making comments about the past, because what does he know about this organization?
I haven't been here that long.
You've never been here. So when you make the assumptions of they've gotten too comfortable, over the summer, or they used to have this kind of culture, or they used to have this kind of attitude, you don't know. You don't know, and by the way, you've been wrong.
Very true. And I think for me too, as a former player, when you have a coach that is always like pointing at different things and doesn't use pronouns like we, or they seem to be too comfortable, you could do it a few times because it's just like a parent and child relationship. There's times to be like, you need to be better. But I feel like it's more accepting when you take ownership for everything that's going on because you're the head of it.
Yeah.
So if guys are slacking off, you're also a part of motivating and getting guys going. People be like, oh, they get this money. They're paid this much.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's a family situation. And you know that better than anyone else.
Familia. You know what? The finger pointing also gets old.
It ain't it.
Real quick. Ryan Gauld, let's talk about him.
Scottish accent?
No, that I will not.
You've been killing the accents today, so I had to ask.
I watched The Outlander. There's a little wee.
I just said little wee.
Is that all we're going to say is wee?
That's all I can say.
No, but I watched Outlander, and I should know
Good
how
show.
to do a little bit of a Scottish accent. I don't know why I'm getting angry. This is really bad. I apologize. I'm trying. And I do it because I went to Scotland, and all
I picked
I'm
up
saying...
the accent.
No, I just met a couple guys who were very cute with their accents, and I was like, I love that accent, and I just butchered it.
I didn't know you
it
were
was
going there.
before I met John.
Okay. No, it's okay. No judgment. Hey.
Ryan Gauld.
Hey.
I'm turning really red right now.
Didn't do anything.
Gets called up to Scotland national team for the first time since 2014.
Oh, I know there are Canadians that are sad about this.
Yeah.
They're still hoping for the miracle.
Really?
Which probably is never going to happen.
I know. And I mean, still scoring goals, looking good. Whitecaps, as we know, are once again going to be in the final of the Can Champ, beat Austin 1-0. How you feeling?
He's feeling good. I'm feeling good about him. Even when you watch him play against Pacific in the Can Champ semifinal, he wasn't at 100% in my opinion in terms of boxing. Still scored, still the best player on the pitch. That's Vancouver Whitecaps. That's Vanni Sartini's ace card right there. He knows it, and now he has a compatriot.
Oh, yes, he does.
Armstrong.
Stuart Armstrong.
New DP. They need someone. I don't know much about him, but I'm excited to see them fill that role because obviously they've been patient to fill that role, Vancouver Whitecaps. They could have done that in the beginning of the season, in August. Not in August, sorry, in February. But they waited, and hopefully he's the creme de la creme.
Yeah, that'd be.
Help out.
Yeah, and then Ryan, he's a likable person. We've obviously had him on the show quite a few times. Yes, he is. But a great interview. It's wonderful advocate for the sport in Canada. How about Chloe Lacasse? She becomes the latest Canadian to say bye to Europe and join the NWSL. So she had made that move about a year ago to Arsenal. We were all excited about that. But last month joined Utah Royals and made her first start. Second appearance versus Houston on Saturday, drew a penalty in a 3-1 win. How you feeling if you're Chloe?
You know me. I like the move when a player's going to play.
Yes.
And develop. I think for Lacasse as well, like her age, you just want someone to be playing week in and week out in the NWSL. So I like the move. Again, all of it, all roads lead to Canada and playing and being efficient for your national team for me. But yeah, if you want to come back home because you feel she's not the only Canadian international woman to come home.
No, Julia Grosso just made the move, too.
Yeah, because you want to go a place where you can play and make an impact.
That's key. And you know what? The NWSL, we said this before when we talked about like that new collective bargaining agreement that they signed. They're making it far more attractive for players to come on over from, the standard of living to what you can earn to benefits that come with it to the quality of play, competition. And it's true. Like when you go over to Europe, it's always a wonderful thing. But I still think, at the end of the day, European players will be favored, and you have to go where you're going to play.
Innately, you have to have that in mind if you're any European country. Like you have to look after your own in some way.
Yeah.
Because that's what matters. At the end of the day.
It really does. That's not to say that players can't do it. Alphonso Davies. Oh, and by the way,
the list goes on. Yeah.
Jonathan David. Like the list does go on.
Sure.
Let's talk Jonathan David right now. That was fun. How you feeling? How you doing?
It's a good game.
Play a little game. But now we're going to just take a look ahead at the Canadian men's national team friendlies that are coming up September 7th and 10th right here on One Soccer. Both those games are right here. Not an ideal time for Jonathan David, perhaps to kind of be slipping a little bit with Lille. He was one of 3 players to be dropped to the bench for their most recent loss. And this is a guy that I feel like again, coming out of what we just saw them play, Copa America in particular, we were like, this team needs to score.
Yeah.
This team needs to get some goals. And even though Jesse Marsh had said that he asked Jonathan David to play a bit of a different role as he was getting to know the team, maybe wanted him to drop back a little bit more. We need this guy.
Scoring goals.
Yeah. Is this something or nothing? You worried? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm okay.
You good?
I
Okay.
mean, I think if we see his bench for 5 games and he didn't touch a pitch for a month and he was with the U21s and was training on his own, I think that's a bigger story. But it's going to happen with a striker and sometimes within their career of just having like a low moment and being on the bench. I could deal with a game here, a game there. I just really know that he's going to come into Canada. And he's the type of player, too, where the way he looks after himself, he's going to come here fit, guns blazing, hungry, especially what's on the line. You're playing USA. In America, you're playing Mexico, which will feel like a away game in the U.S. Like, those are the 2 teams in CONCACAF you want to take care of and show that, hey, we're here to stay, and we're big dogs.
Yeah, and I should mention, by the way, the reason why he was also dropped was he missed a team meal. I don't know what the food was like. Maybe it was
You're
bad.
on fire today, by the way.
Maybe the food wasn't good. Did you ever think about that?
He's like, nah, I'll
maybe
eat in my room.
Jonathan's like, I am done with that. I do not want to sit. No, I don't know. And I know players who have done this before, right? Like where you have to get together for a team meal. They don't necessarily want to eat it. Or maybe they're in a place where family, friends are, but they will still go to the team meal. They will still show their face. They whatever with other people, and then they're out, and they'll have a meal elsewhere. But it sounds like he just didn't show up.
I'll say quickly, too, whenever you color outside the lines in a team, it's a lose-lose for everyone. Because I've had players miss the flight, but then still start, and everyone's looking at you like, you better go impress everyone, you better score 2 goals. Like, it's just changed the dynamic, because guys are like, well, we woke up at 7 o'clock to get on the flight, but you got a flight by yourself at 10? It changes everything. So I understand why managers are like, hey, these rules are in place. You have to do X, Y, and Z to play. Because if you don't, the mood in the locker room, the mood within your team is there a word for that in Italian or French? Or we said comme ci, comme ça.
Yeah, e non è buono.
Non è buono.
Oh, cagare.
Cagare.
There you go. I can really appreciate, you have to, because you're right. If you start coloring out of the lines, like you said, you go down a slippery slope as a manager.
Can't go back.
But at the same time, I've also seen players play guilty, and man, they end up having incredible games.
Ball out,
because
right?
they know they've done something wrong. They know they've let their team down. So yeah, they're like, I'll get it. I'll play goal too.
Supersonic.
I'll score goals. I'll stop goals. What do you need me to do? And sometimes
great.
you end up getting like the most incredible game out of a player. Sam Adekubi. The injury, we were so excited to see him back in camp. We were curious to see how that would affect Alphonso Davies, left back, if he ends up moving up a little bit more.
I don't like talking about who's coming into camp until they're in camp.
I know.
It hurts, but I get it. We're all excited.
Groin injury now.
But
And now if you're Vancouver Whitecaps too, you're probably like,
and
oh.
looked good against Pacific.
Yeah,
That midweek game a week ago, he looked good. I was like,
I know.
he was playing so high up the pitch. I'm like, oh. You're Jesse Marsh, you're watching him, you're like, yes. You can play around with a few things. Inverted, Alphonso Davies wide, that's all. You can do that. Now it's like, okay, let's go back to maybe what we know a little bit.
Yeah. I know. You know what? I feel bad for the player. This
Yeah.
has just got to be so crappy for him. I can't even imagine a body constantly being in pain, and a body just like, your mind is like, let's go. And then your
Yeah.
body's like, no, we're going to stop right here. How frustrating that must be for Sam Adekubi.
Do you mind if I give a little quick shout out to Mauro Stacchio, York United?
do it,
Spend
do
some
it.
time with him. Works really hard, but is basically, don't know the full title, but what Canadian coaching community has a spot that Paul Stalteri had, just being around the team. Good young, the fact that he's younger than me as well, but he's grinding away as a coach. Benjamin Mora said, yeah, he has a real future in this side of the world being a coach. And he really does. He pays attention to details with the national team, coaching his brother. It's not every day that stuff happens.
I love that. I love that they're bringing him on board. I love that he's going to have that exposure. He's going to see what camp is like, training is like. You're around these top quality players.
You go back to your establishment refreshed, knowing what it takes.
Yeah, I like that Canada Soccer does this, right?
Yes.
They've done this before. It's a program that helps coaches come along. And I think that's going to be really special for him. And I think, to your point, it's going to benefit CPL.
And I wonder who's next in the CPL. Like for me, David Edgar screams out, but a big name, had a great career.
Yeah.
But yeah, just having that in place, I think that's marvelous. Thanks for first day of school vibes,
First day of school. I hope you all
that
had a
too?
wonderful first day of school. Yeah, because what are we doing this too?
All of it.
Make friends. Be kind to each other.
Be good people.
Do not have awkward
Fix the problem.
high fives.